I believe that all the thoughts about your body, your mind is creating that in the first place. You've got to be very careful, and you've got to start from the beginning, which is up here. Again, it's the programming. So when you change this, this will change. This will change. But don't do it to change this. Do it to change this, because the freedom you can feel in your mind changes everything anyway. You don't care. At that point, you do not care about your body. That is just a bonus. So I'm sat here talking about weight loss when I'm actually not the skinniest I've ever been, but it doesn't matter anymore. Because
I was waiting for you to say that, Shazzie. I was waiting for you to say that, because I've been a lot skinnier as well, and I couldn't find clothes to fit me because I was so thin.
Me too.
And yet I feel more confident now about my body than I did in those days. And I like myself so much more, and I feel so much more confident, and I don't hide myself as much.
The point is, make your mind beautiful. Make your mind really beautiful as you can. Tend the weeds in your mind garden. Pull them out and plant amazing flowers and watch your world blossom. That's it. That's it.
And what I have found as well is that when you feel really happy in yourself, and you have you use the term programming, and basically what that means is that we are conditioned in a certain way, and once we let go of that conditioning, we find that I find with the people that I work with that actually the weight kind of drops off because it becomes irrelevant.
And actually, one of the things my shrink says to me, she's actually a Jungian psychologist who's a vibrational healer too. So she's like the most amazing woman I've ever met in the world, and she really helped me a lot. One of the things she says is, when you're stuck with something, so if you're stuck with weight or something like that, you can just say, I don't know how my body transforms into whatever you want to call it. I don't like using the perfect weight, but how my body transforms into a shape that I love. But it does easily now. And so it's quite a long type of affirmation, but what you're doing is you're completely just taking your forcefulness out of the situation, and you're
and understanding. You don't have to understand how it happens.
You really don't. You just, when you drop that new seed in, it'll blossom. It'll just create the perfect you, however that looks. And you don't know how that's going to look, actually, which is amazing.
It could look completely different to what you thought it did.
Absolutely. The same as you think, you wouldn't think that the perfect man for you or whatever would look like how he does, or the perfect career would look like how it does, or the perfect home. You don't know. You just, when you see it, you're like, yeah, of course. That makes sense.
But it's not difficult, and yet I think it takes practice, doesn't it? And it takes a bit of dedication and belief.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I think if you set yourself the intention that you're going to be a loving, beautiful, kind being, and that everything that comes from you is positive, and then suddenly it's not, don't smack yourself in the face for it. Just notice. It's all down to presence and awareness. Yeah. That's all it is. I remember one woman once said to me, she goes, you've got it all inside you, but you're still looking out there. She's like, you're constantly looking for your keys, but you've got your keys. Don't you realise? And I'm like, no, I don't. Because it's easy to say it's easy when you've practiced it and got it, right? But yeah, you're right. It does take practice. And the practice comes from observing your thoughts. And so not trying to trick your brain into having, you have a thought that is sort of bad or whatever, and then going, aha, you've had a bad thought, you're a bad person. Because then there's just two of you having an argument, and then you could have another one in there. You can have loads of you in there. That don't work. But you observe your thoughts. You don't judge them, but you just observe it. And is that a thought that you want? And if it isn't, get rid of it. And if it is, have more of those. And it's that simple. It's just choice. Yeah. And I never realised for a long time that I could choose my life, and I could choose those thoughts, and I could choose the way that, and if somebody did something to me or wanted something from me, I would do it because I thought, well, they must have my best interests at heart, which clearly not everyone does. Therefore, I'll do it. And I was like so easily led with some things. But as soon as I realised that everything I thought and did was a choice, it revolutionised my whole life and gave me everything I ever wanted, like just threw it in my lap. And I'm like, oh, God, there we go. And maybe that's the fear, that we're not ready to have everything we want.
And I love hearing this from you, because I do really admire you. What you say really works. It's not just some kind of spiel. Like, you know, I get slightly irritated sometimes, and I have to self-manage when I hear people saying things which they think they should say. But I know that everything that you say is completely comes from a really authentic place, and I really appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Well, you can also tell that it's authentic because it doesn't sometimes make sense and it's slightly muddled. So it's not linear, is it? Just like,
because you're trying to articulate
blurges.
Yeah.
Trying to articulate feelings, and it's actually quite difficult to do because it kind of doesn't have a language sometimes. And it's a lot of it is feeling, and especially like as a woman, we go through life feeling stuff when we've opened ourselves up to feel, when we allow ourselves to feel, and that's actually very difficult to then put into a language. But all I can say to your viewers, your wonderful people that are listening to this, is just practice observing your thoughts and delete the thoughts you don't want. Just go, oh, I don't want that thought anymore, and keep the ones they do want, and that's it.
What I often suggest is that, like you said, notice the thoughts that come up, and it might feel difficult to delete it, but what you can do is just observe it, notice it, like you say, and then let it go. And it might come up again, but every time you let it go, that thought becomes less powerful and it has less impact on your life, and it gets to the point where it becomes unsubstantial. You might have like a niggling feeling, but then even that disappears.
Yeah, and I think the confusion arises when somebody has a thought and they get into a dialogue with that thought. So, it's a thought they don't want, like, oh, I'm fat. And then, so the dialogue starts, it becomes really big. And you can't, there's not an easy way around that. It's a much easier way to not just look, not engaging. It's not going to take that thought. Yeah.
Here's a summary. To feel happier and to allow weight to come off naturally, observe your thoughts, let negative thoughts go, never get into a dialogue with your negative thoughts. And how about trying the affirmation, I don't know how my body will transform into the shape I love, but it does so now. And finally, stop being so hard on yourself. You're on your way, you're exactly where you need to be.
Actually, it's not a very common thing that people do. I did it as a process with one of my neighbours. Within a year, both got exactly what we wanted.